Welcome to another episode of There's a Lesson Here Somewhere, where we dive into TV shows and films that are published on Tubi. We'll explore the good, the bad, and find all the lessons in between. I'm your host, Manji, and today we will be diving into the thriller film Takeout. Now, if you missed the previous episode, please go ahead and check it out. We covered the comedy film Terry Joe. But for today's episode, Takeout, it's only an hour and a half, just about. So if you haven't seen it already, feel free to give this podcast a pause. Go ahead and check it out on Tubi. It's free. And then come back to join us for the conversation. Or if you're like me and you don't mind having the movie ruined just to see if you will like it in the first place, go ahead and check out this full episode. If you like it, then you go ahead and go watch Takeout on Tubi. The world is yours. So let's get right into it. So this movie Takeout, it takes place at a diner. The diner is called the Big Dripper. I kind of like that name. And quickly, we are introduced to the main character, whose name is Nova. She's running a bit late for work, so she's rushing into the diner. After she enters the diner, we meet Harper, who just right off the bat, I wasn't really feeling. I'm not even gonna hold you. She's like a mild Karen, like a baby Karen. Like once she, probably get a couple more years on her, she'll be a full Karen. And that's the energy I'm getting from her. Then we meet Benny, who's in the back flipping the burgers, and he's watching the television and the news is on. So we learn that there's a serial killer on the loose. They call them the doll keeper, in which the killer, after he kills them or before, I'm not sure when, but he makes a doll of all his victims. And we also learn that there's a $250,000 reward for any information leading up to the doll keeper's arrest. Then two police officers enters the diner and they are bullies, but they're police officers and bullies. They kind of look synonymous. But the woman cop, she used to go to school with Harper. So I guess Harper used to make straight A's back in the day, and now she's just here, a cashier or a supervisor, who knows, at this diner. While the police officer, she just basically antagonizing her because I guess she is probably was jealous of her in high school or something. While the male police officer, he heads out back in the back to mess with Benny, and then we learn that Benny's on parole and these officers are just nasty. They're just walking around as if they just own this restaurant. So while the lady cop was trying to play Harper, Harper reminded her that, she's an entrepreneur and this is just like, a job for right now. Like she's going to be leaving that place soon. Like you'll see. You'll see. Now Nova, she was running a bit late, so she's still kind of putting herself together, and also Harper was like badgering her about wearing a hat or a visor, like the company's visor basically, since she's handling food. And so Nova's in the back looking for her hat. And Benny's back there now, and he sees the gash that's on Nova's head. So he offers help. He says, if you want, we can handle that. And we learn that basically things are not good back home for Nova. Her stepdad is very abusive, and he's the one who caused that gash on her head. But Nova is very sweet and unproblematic, So she's like, no, I don't want no more problems. And she also has a little sister. So I'm assuming that her stepdad is the biological father of her little sister. So since he's not really abusing the little sister that much and Nova is getting all the work, she's like, that's fine as long as he don't touch my sister. So she basically says no thank you to Benny. Since Nova can't find her hat in the store, she goes out to check her car. So she goes out into the parking lot and she's ransacking her car looking for this damn visor. And then we see this car pulls up. And now this weird guy, he's just creepy from jump. He gets out the car and he's just constantly staring at Nova. Like, yes, she's a beautiful girl, but please, please, sir, get it together. And he's just being creepy. But once he finally leaves and enters the restaurant, she just so happens to glance in the back seat and see a doll. Very similar to what they were talking about on the news that could be related to the doll keeper, the serial killer. Nova, she don't handle things like this well. And I'm not gonna hold you like I was irritated a lot just based off of Nova's actions alone. Ugh, this movie is really good and unpredictable, which is what I loved about it. But the way Nova handled a lot of these situations, I just wanted to pinch her. So after seeing the doll, she's kind of freaking out because he might be the serial killer. So when she enters the restaurant, she's just being fucking weird and she's just like like girl, act normal, act normal. So she pulls Harper to the back with Benny so she can tell both of them at the same time that she thinks that this weirdo is the dog keeper. And at first they were just like brushing off Harper, but she's still freaking out and she wants to call the police immediately. But then Benny, after remembering what he heard on TV, like, hey, we can probably get some money out of this. So he was like, let's be sure that he is the killer. Like let's figure out let's find something to ensure that he is a killer before we call the police and before we call the hotline because there's a $250,000 reward out for him. And if he is a killer, we could split that three ways. After hearing that information, Harper's on board as well. So they made a plan to figure out how to get inside of the car just to look around and see if they can find anything to ensure that he is in fact a serial killer. So Nova goes out and offers him some free coffee, and he is just creepy. Look what he said.
We're offering a free cup of coffee for our customers tonight.
Pass. Although, if you're offering anything else, you let me know.
So even though he said no to the coffee, she still goes and pours him a cup, spilling some of the coffee on his lap. Of course, he gets upset, but then he calms down. Like everything about this man is giving serial killer, if you ask me. So he goes to the restroom so he can clean the coffee up off his pants and potentially dry it. Once he leaves the table, Nova takes his keys and head to his car. So while this guy is in the restroom trying to clean himself up, Benny is right outside the door to make sure he stays in there for as long as possible to give Nova enough time to look around and see what's going on. So once she makes it out to the car, she checks the trunk. Guess what she finds in the trunk? A body. So of course Nova needs proof of what she is seeing, so she ends up taking a photo of the lady that's in the trunk. Now, she was already acting weird just after seeing a doll. So now imagine how weird Nova's acting after seeing a dead body in the back of this man's vehicle. Not to mention, she is moving in slow motion. Okay. Oh my goodness. My heart was beating so fast because I'm like, girl, get back in there. Because now the dude is trying to get out of the bathroom. And since Nova is still outside taking forever, Benny had to hold the door closed so he couldn't open it. But you can only do that for so long. So eventually the guy gets the door open, and then Benny is still trying to stall a little bit. Thank God by this time Nova made it back inside the restaurant, but she is still just out of it because of what she just seen in the trunk. So Harper had to literally snatch the keys from out her hand and put it back on the table so they won't get caught.
You're so Give me the keys. Alpha, give me the keys.
Everyone goes to the back to see, what the information that Nova has found, in which she threw up before she can get anything out. Which, all right, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I get it. So then she immediately shows them the photo, and Harper is just loud as shit. She's like, "Is that a camera?" Like I would have smacked her. Oh my gosh! Like this film had me so tense. Again, Nova wants to call the police right away. Like she hasn't let up on calling the police, but Benny and Harper they got their mind on the money, and they're like, "Hold up, let's call this reward number and let's get this locked down before we call the police. We can keep him here." And Benny's like, yo, he's not going to do nothing to anyone else. As long as we keep him here, we lock down the money, then we call the police. Then Benny also reminds Nova, like, hey, once you get some of this money, you can get your sister out of that terrible situation with your stepdad. So now Nova was like, you know what, you're right. Let me cool off a little bit and I'll let y'all do what y'all do, but please hurry up because I want to call the police. So Benny gets right on it. He calls the reward line and gives them the information. And of course, they're asking all the required questions to make sure, no one's playing around with their time, just trying to get some money. And while he's on the phone with them, the owner Susan comes in. And Susan is about that money and she don't care who gets played in the process of getting said money. So they decided not to tell her anything about their plan and just to act cool and get her out as soon as possible. Now, Harper, again, she's a baby Karen, low key kiss ass. So she's like snitching on Nova almost immediately, telling her how, like, telling Susan how Nova was late. And then Nova was trying to like improve the business because she's the one that's, frying the fries and everything. So she was telling Susan, hey, we need to fix this. Harper's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. Like, now, once Susan make it to the back, she's like carrying a little Chihuahua type dog this entire time, by the way, which is unsanitary for a food establishment. She's in the back with Benny and she's flirting with him. Obviously, she wants to fuck him. And she like placed her dog on the counter next to the food. It was just like, Susan, get the F out of here. Susan finally leaves. Now, Benny is trying to finish this reward call. However, once he got back on the line, the service dropped. And the next scene, we see that this creepy guy is actually waiting on a date and she just so happens to walk in. And during this time, we realized that not only is the signal down, but the Wi-Fi is too. So now everybody is like, not everybody, but Nova is like really freaking out. Nova's trying to call the police again, telling them that they should call the police again since now the date is involved. But again, Benny reassures her, nothing's gonna happen. I'll protect the date. I'll protect y'all. As long as y'all stay, this man stay right here, everybody's cool. So he tries to figure out a way to call the reward line again. So he's trying to use the landline, but even that is down. Shortly after that, Mr. Greenwood now enters the diner. And we learn that he is a teacher, a former teacher of Harper and a current teacher of Nova. And Harper's a kiss ass, so she gives him like a free coffee or whatever, and try to make nice, let him know that she will amount to a lot more than being a supervisor at a diner. So now the creepy guy is like talking to Nova. I think he was like trying to get the food for homegirl, and he called her his girlfriend. And Nova's like, "Wait, didn't y'all? It looks like y'all just met." So now he's like, "Oh, you're jealous." He is so creepy. Oh my goodness. And so Nova's like, "We need to get this handled right now." So she suggests driving into town and just finding help right then and there, since they had no service, no Wi-Fi, and the landline was down. But of course, Benny and them are like, "No, we'll figure something out. You don't need to do all that. We'll keep him here by taking his keys," because the date and the creepy guy, they was trying to head out. So that's why they were like rushing them, because the woman, she ordered food, but they're taking forever to give her the food because of course they don't want them to leave, because they think he is the dog keeper, and they are assuming that this woman is his next victim. So Nova, she went and acted like she was cleaning the table, in which she like snatched his keys up. And now the guy, shortly after, like right as soon as Nova went to the back, he realized his keys were gone. Now he's pissed. He's yelling, and he's like, "Your waitress stole my keys." But Benny and them, they want to make it seem like it was an accident. And he's like, "Hey, you know what? Don't fret, young man. I'll go check the back for your keys." But this guy, he's kind of pissed. The creepy guy, he's like pissed at everybody at this point. So he's like, "I'm going to go to the back with you." So both the creep and Benny, they head to like the back, like outside the restaurant back, to check like the actual garbage bins to see if the keys are back there. While all of this is happening, Mr. Greenwood, the professor, I'm just going to call him professor throughout the rest of this video. He's really watching everything that's going on and watching very closely. Nova don't know what else to do, so she's trying to tell this lady not to go out with him. The lady is assuming that she is just like some hater and probably want her man, but she's like, "Please don't go with him. Please don't go. Please." They should have just told him like, "Girl, he's a dog keeper." Just told her straight up, like, "This man's a killer. He gonna kill you. Do not go with him." So I feel like that would have encouraged me. Even if they were lying, I'm like, I can't risk it. So I would have left. But they were still trying to play it cool without telling her all the information. And so Nova's like practically begging her to just stay, which looked weird. And while she's doing this, Benny ends up putting the creepy dude in a headlock and eventually tying him up to a chair. As if this night couldn't get any worse, Nova's stepdad pulls up and drops off her little sister, Millie. And we learn that Millie is nonverbal. She can hear, but she just don't speak. So she uses sign language. And Millie, Nova's little sister, she has other complications going on like asthma, and she has to take medicine at a certain amount of time. Nova has like a watch or a timer on her watch that alerts her every time it's time for Millie to take medicine, or whatever the case. So while Nova is taking care of Millie, the date notices that she's a little bit busy. So she sneaks off to the back to see where the fuck her date is at. So she makes it to the back room where the creep guy is, in fact, tied up to the chair. And they put like this little nasty hat inside his mouth so he won't yell. And it's Benny and Harper back here with him. So, of course, they're trying to keep the date calm. And then off top, they're like, "Yo, he's a killer. He's not who you think he is. Blah, 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 blah." And the guy can't defend himself because, again, he's gagged. Harper is like, "Hey, but there's a reward out. And if you don't say anything, we'll look out for you too. We'll give you $50." I would have yelled like, $50. Help! Like, girl, who you playing? $50 out of 250,000. So while Harper is trying to convince her, she pulls up a chair. So I guess the date could sit down and I guess think about what she's going to do. So the date, she was kind of acting like, she's going to go along with it. And she's like fake about to like sit down, I guess, or chill. But then she suddenly tries to run out of the room. And I think the creepy guy tripped her. I'm not sure exactly how, but the date fell. And she ends up falling and cracking her neck on that chair that Harper just pulled out. So she's a goner. And the next scene, we head back to the front of the restaurant, and Nova's up here by herself because, of course, Harper and Benny is handling things in the back. So Nova's trying to figure out what's going on because where's everybody at? So she asked Mr. Greenwood to look over Millie. She gave her something to color and just like to keep her busy. So she runs to the back. But before Nova can make it to the back where Harper and Benny is, we see that Harper is trying to figure out a story to tell people because they don't want to be to blame for this woman now dead in the back of this restaurant. So she's like, "Yo, we could blame this creep. He's already the dog killer. Like, we just blame him and say that he did it." But Benny, he's on parole, so he's like, fuck. He's trying to he's trying to figure out a way out too. But he also have, I guess, like a little heart, and he's like, nah, Harper, like we low key are responsible for this. However, we only have one witness, and now they're looking at the creeper dude. It was they never verbally said what they should do, but it was insinuated what they needed to do in order to not take the blame for old girl falling and cracking her head. Harper did not need much convincing. She was on board almost immediately. So as soon as they agree to what they agreed to, Nova joins them and she sees what's going on. And I told you, Nova does not work well under stress. So of course she's freaking out.
What the fuck? What happened? He did it.
And now that she sees that the date is laid out on the floor, she's like, what's going on? And of course, they blame the creep. So now Nova's like, F this, I'm about to call the police. But of course, she can't call the police because there's no service nor any Wi Fi. But Harper's trying to keep on with her story. And Nova, she's a smart girl. She freaks out, but she's still pretty smart. And you can tell by her facial expression that she wasn't really buying what Harper was selling. So things do get a little bit worse. Now Mr. Greenwood and Millie walks into this room and see everything that's going on. And so of course Nova she takes Millie out because Nova Millie she's probably only like 7 or 8, so she's a little baby. Nova is caring for her sister and she don't need to see what's going on. But Mr. Greenwood, oh knows himself, he's like, what's going on? Almost immediately, Harper is like, yo, he's the dog keeper. He's a serial killer. He killed this lady, and we're trying to help. We found out earlier that he is the dog killer because we found the doll in his car. So now Mr. Greenwood was like, oh, so like the police are on the way? And they're like,
We were gonna, all right? We were gonna call the police, but there's a reward after this guy that didn't get to finish the fucking call.
this is valuable information for Mr. Greenwood. But everybody want to make it seem like, they're a good Samaritan. So Benny is like, you know what? Let's go check the line out back to see what's going on with it because we should at least have service on the landline so we can call the police or call the reward number. So Benny and Mr. Greenwood head to the back to see what's going on with the phone line. At this point, it's just way too much going on, and there's no way they could serve like customers and handle what's going on out back. So Nova asked all the guests to leave, giving one of the customers a whole bunch of free coupons because he was not having it. And he also has been waiting for a very long time for service. But since she gave him all those free things, he was game to leave and come back another time. So she finally gets everyone out. She locks the front door and switches the open sign to close because they got to handle business. The next scene, we head out back and we see that Benny sees that the phone line was actually literally cut. Someone cut it. Then we go back to the room where now it's just Harper and the creepy dude who's tied up to the chair. And he's like adamant about, like talking to her. So she takes the visor out of his mouth to give him, I guess, some time to say what he needs to. And he tells her, like, yo, that's actually not my car. I stole that car from somewhere else. Like, I'm not a serial killer. I don't know who you think I am, but that car is not mine. Next scene, we see Mr. Greenwood Benny's throat. Rewind. Nova actually seen Millie playing with a doll that was similar to the doll that was in that creep's car, and that was similar to the dolls that the news segment was talking about that's related to the doll keeper. So she's like, what the hell? And then we see Mr. Greenwood slicing Benny's throat. So yes, he is definitely the doll keeper. And now we know that. And now Nova knows that. But we are the only two who knows this. Well, and Benny, but he gone now. Then we head back to the scene with Harper and the creepy dude. So she's listening to him while he's trying to plead for his life and let her know that that car wasn't his. But while he's like speaking, he's also trying to break out, and he does. He breaks free from whatever rope that he was tied in, and he attacks her because he's trying to get out. But he also is still giving killer vibes. Like, I feel like if he didn't have nothing to do with this, he did something. He did something. But he also threatened Harper, not necessarily threatened to hurt her. Well, not physically, but he threatened to ruin her reputation because he's like, I'm telling everybody what you did, while he's trying to like get her because like, nah, you're not about to get away with this.
Fucking bitch. I'm gonna fucking ruin you. Everyone will know.
But Harper wins. She ends up offing the creepy dude because honestly, like, you're fighting for your life literally in this moment. So Harper, she successfully fought for her life, is what I'll say. So after Nova seen Millie playing with this doll, she started looking at Mr. Greenwood's little suitcase thing that he brought in, and she found this device. And this device is what essentially is cutting off the service as well as the Wi-Fi. And she tested this out by turning the device off. And as soon as she turned that device off, she started getting messages on her phone and the service went back to normal. So she's like, holy shit. I know this. I know he ain't who I think he is. Immediately, now that she has service, she calls 911. But during this call, Mr. Greenwood comes back up front and joins her. So Nova hangs up with the police because, she don't want to get caught and she need to play it safe right now because she knows a lot of information and it's obviously overwhelming. So she tries to get Millie and act normal and try to go to the bathroom to do whatever. She's just trying to get away from Mr. Greenwood, but now he's like a little skeptical about what's going on. So while he's trying to say, hey, it's probably best if we just stick together, Nova gets a call on her phone. So now he's like, how the fuck is she getting a call when I turned off the service? So she goes and checked the bag and realized that Nova found his little device and he turns it back on so she can't call anyone anymore. And while he's looking and stuff, Nova takes off with Millie. She heads to the back and she see Benny there, RIP. Then she makes it out of the restaurant to the front where her vehicle is, or somebody's car, because her and Millie are hiding behind the car. Now, I think this is like almost an hour into the film. And for me personally, this would have been the end of the film because I would have grabbed my sister and my keys and we would have been up out of, I don't, if I didn't have keys, we run somewhere. So we about to hitchhike or something, but we would have been out of there. So once Nova, she's outside, mind you, with her sister. She looks inside the restaurant and see the Mr. Greenwood going to the back. She's thinking about Harper. Now Nova is trying to be Superwoman. This is where she fucked up. So she tells Millie to stay there, to don't go back into the restaurant or anything, and just to stay there and wait for her. So Nova goes back into the restaurant to try to save the day, and she sees that the creepy dude is actually dead too. But Nova, she's assuming that Mr. Greenwood, the professor, did it. Now the police officers are back to antagonize them a little bit more and probably to get some free food. So Nova is kind of happy about this because she think like, we could just tell them and then they'll help us. However, once she make it back to the front of the restaurant, we see that the professor now has Millie. Because why the fuck would you leave your? The professor has Millie, and he also have a knife. So he's like, if you want to protect your sister, I think it's best that you get rid of these police officers. In fact, I'm going to give you until the end of this song that I'm about to play to get rid of them, or else. So now Harper just magically reappears because the police are there, and now everybody is trying to act normal. And also, like, Harper is like, yeah, let's not say anything until we get the money because I think she still thinks it's the creepy dude as well. I'm not sure what's going on with Harper, but she was like, let's not tell them anything. The police officers, let's not tell the police what's going on. Actually, the police are there because the little short call that Nova did do to the police station, they sent them out to check on them because it made it seem like it was an emergency because it is. So Nova was like, "Oh, that was a butt dial," but they was like, "Nah, you said it was emergency." She's like, "Oh, I think that was just like my sister playing on the phone." But again, these police officers are used to walking around this establishment like they own it. So the male cop, he already is going to the back so he could fuck with Benny. But of course, Benny's not there. So they stop them and they're like, oh, Benny went home. That's why we have to close the restaurant. So now, since Mr. Greenwood is the former professor of Harper, that means he's also the former professor of the lady cop. So she's over there kissing his ass. And now the police officers, they want free food because they feel like, they're owed this due to these troubles because they called them out and now there's no emergency. Of course, they're trying to get them out, the police officers out of the diner. So they're like, no problem. Immediately, Nova goes and gets some fries. They can't get any burgers because Benny's gone. So the only thing they can offer is like fries or coffee. So Nova, she goes and fries them up a fresh batch of fries. And so while Nova's doing this, the professor's like, hey, well, actually, Nova gives them the fries. And then the professor's like, hey, guys, like, let's take a photo to like have a memory of this moment. And so once they take a photo, he like spilled coffee over the bag of the fries that Nova just gave them. So now they need a new fresh batch. Nova makes a whole new batch of fries and bags it and preps it for the two police officers. During this entire exchange, the police officers kept hollering about barbecue sauce, because that's the sauce they want with their fries.
And throw some extra barbecue sauce in.
So we see that Nova's being a smart gal and she grabs the ketchup and puts it in there because, these officers are assholes. So, and they ain't got nothing else to do. So they're probably going to, most likely, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back to talk some more shit because they got ketchup instead of barbecue sauce. So the police officer finally leaves. And now Nova is sitting with Mr. Greenwood while her sister Millie is sitting right beside him and she's sitting across from him. And now she just asks him straight up, like, "Are you the doll keeper?" And he tells her, like, "Yeah." And he basically says that he creates these dolls so when he kills his victims, they don't have to take on, I guess, all of the pain. The doll can handle the pain for them while they just, I guess, die. And he was kind of like, I guess, upset that he couldn't make a doll for her or even Millie.
They're vessel dolls. Yeah, they take the pain, the sins, the suffering of their masters. Nova, I truly wish that I could have prepared you your own doll. Then you wouldn't have to feel what's going to happen to you tonight.
He also tells Nova that that kid indeed stole his car, which he was surprised because he was in a nice neighborhood and he was hollering about how the crime is like out of control nowadays, which was like, all right, weirdo. Just as Nova planned, the police officers came back. Mr. Greenwood is like side eyeing her now because he's like, what the fuck did I tell you? So now, she opens the door to let the police officers back in and she's like, oh, silly me, while Mr. Greenwood, professor, whatever the fuck, he's like holding on to Millie's hands. Like that would have been weird for me if I was a police officer. Like, what are y'all related? What are we doing? So instead of just directly going to get the barbecue sauce, she wanted to offer them some free coffee. And while she's prepping the coffee, she's like signing to Millie to let her know to bite the professor at her cue. Nova gives Millie the cue, so she bites the hand of the professor, and then Nova pours the hot coffee on him. So she grabs Millie, and I believe they run to the back. So now the professor has to kill the cops because that's the only way out. So he literally kills the lady cop almost immediately. And then, like in this next scene, we see the male cop in the car literally jamming out to music, and through the window, you see the professor killing the police officer, the lady police officer. But Nova, being the superwoman that she is before leaving or trying to run, she grabs Harper. And so while they're trying to figure out what to do, the professor goes and kills the male cop now. So now both the police officers are dead. And now Harper, Nova, and Millie are in the store, back in the diner, I mean, and they lock themselves in the back of the house. So they lock all the doors. So there's no way into the back portion of the diner. So now Harper knows that the professor is in fact the doll keeper, and immediately, no hesitation, she's like, "We got to kill him." And Nova's like, "No, no, like no, like this is the where I'm on Harper's side. Like regardless of the reason why she wants to kill this dude, I'm on her side because that looks like that's the only way out. He done killed about 3 people now, including the police officers. Like that's the only way you can get out." And but Nova, she's like, "No, we can't kill him." And Harper is literally spending like the next 5 minutes trying to convince Nova to kill him. But during this time, Millie starts having an asthma attack. So now Nova needs to go back to the front of the house to get Millie's inhaler. So Nova tries to distract the professor by turning up the music very, very loud. So the professor heads to the back, like the back of the entire business outside, to basically pull out all the wiring to cut off all the electricity so the lights and the sound goes out. So while the lights and the sound go out, Nova is in the front of the house, like tiptoeing around so she can get her inhaler pump thing. What are those things called? The little asthma pump. There we go. The professor made it back to the front of the house, and Nova is still out front with the inhaler. So now she just have to run to the back. And so she was trying to do so quietly, but then she ends up knocking over the chair. So after that, she just had to speed it to the back. Thankfully, she made it there before the professor did, and they were able to close the door and lock him out. Harper is still trying to get Nova to get on board to kill this man. But Nova made it back. She helped out Millie, got her situated with her asthma. And then she also remembered, like, hey, if we get these sprinklers to go off, it'll alert the fire department and they'll be here soon. So all we got to do is keep these sprinklers going for at least 30 seconds. So she take a piece of paper, she lights it, and then she gets on a chair to place the flame right under the sprinklers. And they set off the sprinklers. So now she's just counting down the time. But before it could hit 30 seconds, the water shuts off. So Nova, she's like, what the hell's going on? So she lights another piece of paper and stands on a chair and put the flame to the sprinkler. But this time the water does not come on. So she's like, what the hell's going on? So she goes to, I guess, like the line of the water thing and see that it's been cut. And then Harper comes in and she says sorry because she not only cut that, so now the fire department can't come help them, but she also let the professor to the back of the house.
Harper, what are you sorry for? They had to. Let her go!
see? You see? Nova went back in to try to save Harper. Meanwhile, Harper is throwing her under the bus. No hesitation to protect herself. Like, ugh. So Nova don't understand why the fuck Harper would do something like this. And then she learns that Harper actually was the one who killed the creeper dude. And the professor recorded all of it. So I guess it was like a mutual beneficiary exchange or some shit that they called it. So since the professor got blackmail on Harper, she is basically doing whatever he says. But Harper was like, "Girl, I can't ruin my life. I'm sorry." I feel like she probably could have like claimed self defense, like but whatever. She's like, "I gotta do what I gotta do to protect me. I gotta put myself first, Nova." As if things couldn't get any worse, Susan, who's actually the owner of this establishment, I don't know if I said that earlier, she shows back up and she's wondering what the hell is going on. Like, why is the diner closed? Why aren't they making her money? But Harper, she like fake teamed up with the professor right now. So she's like, "Yo, don't worry about it. I'll get her out of here." So she goes to the front and tells Susan that both Nova and Benny went home for the evening. So that kind of was enough information for Susan. So she ended up leaving. So while the professor and Nova and Millie is in the back, the professor is trying to guide Nova into the freezer. So before he could do so, once Susan was out front, she realized that. So she still had the keys for the creeper dude's car, which was essentially the professor's car, and she used it to open up the trunk. So while Susan was outside near her car, she seen that the trunk opened up, and Susie nosy as hell, so she about to go see what's in his trunk. So she looked and she seen the body in the back of this trunk. So now she's freaking out. She goes to her car, she grabs her gun, and she heads back inside the diner. After Nova did that, the professor just went ahead and shoved both Nova and Millie and locked them inside of the freezer, the walk-in freezer. So now Susan, she's back inside of the diner with the gun pointed, and now she sees that Harper is there with some man. She don't know Mr. Greenwood, so she like, "Who the hell are you, and why are you here?" And she got the gun pointed at them, and now like he's really good at cosplaying a good guy, the professor. So he's like, "Hey, like I'm just here to help. Like let's call the police officer." And he's getting closer to Susan, probably to try to take her gun. But then Harper looked at this as an opportunity to get rid of the video that the professor has of her killing the creepy dude. She's like, just started yelling to Susan, is like,
He's the doll keeper, the serial killer. That's his car outside. He killed them all. All the proof you need is on his phone.
so she ends up snatching the phone. Harper deletes the video that he has. So now I guess she's free of the blackmail. Now the professor who, keeps a knife on him ends up stabbing Susan. So now she's a goner. But that gave Harper some time to run away. So she runs to the back of the house just trying to figure out, I guess, how she's going to get up out of there. And so during this time, though, Nova was able to knock off like this little door thing that was attached to the freezer. It's like a little window thing, but it also has bars. So she was able to punch that out, in which she was able to yell for help. So that's distracted Susan, and that allowed the professor to stab her. While she's trying to figure out how she's going to get out of this freezer, she sees Harper running to the back, like out the exit of the restaurant. And she's like, "Yo, like Harper, help me, help me." Harper didn't think twice.
Harper! Harper, please! Help us! I'm sorry, Nova! I'm so sorry!
She didn't even take a second to even think about helping her. She kept going because horses don't stop. This is what I mean, yo. This is a lesson right here.
Message.
And it's the lesson that I shared before. Don't pour into others when your cup ain't full. Granted, I guess Harper is taking the correct route in a sense where she's looking out for herself and herself only in this crazy situation, while Nova was putting her, Harper, who was selfish, above her own needs. So when Nova and Millie was out in that fucking front about 30 minutes prior to all this happening, they had the perfect opportunity to get away. But Nova was thinking of Harper and trying to save her and not focusing on saving her own life with her little sister. So now I'm pretty sure Nova is filled with a whole bunch of regret. I would have called Harper all kinds of bitches. I would have started helping the professor at this point to get this bitch because now you got me fucked. But Millie was like, "Yo, like I'm little enough to help." This is low key the only option that they have. So Nova helps Millie up and basically help her squeeze through the bar so Millie could run around and open the door to the freezer so they both can get out. So while Nova and Millie are working on this, the professor is now after Harper because Harper just threw him under the bus, and now he had to kill Susan. So now he's looking to kill Harper. So now they're all in the back. And Harper is literally just hiding out by like the dumpster because she didn't have enough time to actually get away because it was quick the stab and now he's in the back. The professor is following her around trying to figure out like where he is, and it looks as if the professor gave up. So we see Harper trying to creep around the building, probably trying to head to the front so she can get to her car and get the fuck up out of there. But before she could bust that corner, the professor's right there and stabs her immediately. So now, R.I.P. Harp. Thankfully, Nova and Millie did make it out the freezer, and it was just in time, right before the professor made it to the back of the house. So right now, they're trying to just hide out and hope that the professor don't hear them or anything. But he do. He ends up knocking out Nova. Then he takes Millie and puts her in the trunk of his car with the other dead body. I know that was so traumatizing for Millie. So now the professor is trying to torch this place so he can get rid of all evidence of anything that went down in this establishment this night. So he starts pouring gasoline all over the place. Of course, he includes the police car because the bodies are in there now. So he pours gasoline on the car and all throughout the establishment. And while he's doing this, I told you earlier that Nova has alert on her watch that lets her know when it's time to give Millie her medication. So this alarm actually wakes up Nova. So now she's like coming back to life because, of course, she was knocked out. So eventually they end up fighting, and Nova is literally fighting for her life. But unfortunately for her, the professor has a gun. So she don't have to just run from a knife. She have to run from a bullet. And it got to the point where the professor, like using the gun wasn't his MO, but for the sake of time and getting up out of there, he's like, I got to do what I got to do. But lucky for Nova, this is where it benefits her to have this fucked up fryer and she's smart. She turned the fryer on. So basically with the fryer, what it does is like it like spews hot grease everywhere after you turn it on. So since it was on, it did what it normally does, and it basically spewed out a whole bunch of oil, and it got on the professor's face. So that gave her enough time to try to get away. And then he drops the gun, but then he's also a big man while Nova is a tiny like teenager. So he gets her and he just starts choking her. But Nova, she grabs a piece of like glass and she stabs him in the neck. Go Nova. So now she finally handled the professor and he's laid out. So immediately she goes and get her baby sister up out of that trunk. And while she's like getting her out of the trunk and just like hugging her and loving her, a customer pulls up. The same customer from earlier who she gave those free coupons to. He comes back and is like, y'all open? Like, what's going on? And then, of course, we see the fire department and the whole police force because this was a serial killer. We got the FBI and all these people there. And so they caught the guy. And instead of Nova going to the hospital to get checked out, which I think she definitely should have done, both her and Millie, it was too much going on tonight. She's like, I just want to get home. I just want to get Millie in bed. Like, I just need to lay down. Before Nova could leave and I guess go to sleep, she was stopped by one of the officers and he informed her that Benny's call was valid and they gave her like a number basically because the people who was offering the reward decided to give that money to Nova because she basically saved the day and solved the crime and got rid of the murderer, which is funny because this whole time like Harper was trying to kill him or whatever and Nova actually ended up needing to kill him. Yeah, so she is leaving now with $250,000 that she gets to keep all to herself, which I'm sure she's going to be sharing with her sister, and it's going to just help their situation so much because now they can get away from the abusive stepdad. Now let's get into the final lesson of this film. Now this lesson is going to be very contradicting because earlier I just said to put yourself first because granted she wouldn't have experienced half that shit if she left with Millie when she had the chance when she made it out to her car. She could have been gone. She could have sent the police there. And actually, she could have still probably got the reward money because she would have been able to catch the killer alive and they would know exactly who the dog keeper is. So I figure either way, Nova would have been $250,000 richer and alive. And she's probably just less traumatized because she wouldn't have had to fight for her life against him. She wouldn't have to see Harper play the fuck out of her by leaving her in the freezer, and Millie, her little sister, wouldn't have had to experience being in the trunk with a dead body. Okay, so I feel like another lesson though, on the other side of things, since that didn't happen, and she still ended up $250,000 richer and alive thanks to her own wits and strength, she stayed true to who she was. She was a genuine soul who actually cared about the people around her and cared to do good, if you want to call it that. She was just a genuine person. And at the end of the day, even though like Harper, even Benny, they were more focused on getting the money rather than ensuring that this killer don't kill anyone else, or just ensuring that this man is arrested that night so he don't murder anyone else. They were so focused on looking out for themselves. And this is where I say it gets contradicting, because I just said you got to put yourself first, which yes, you should have. Nova should have been got the fuck up out of there and got that 250,000 some other way. However, since she is so genuine and giving, at the end of the day, she was still rewarded the money because she was still a genuine person. While the people who were money hungry and focused on themselves at the detriment of someone else, then they ended up, dead. That makes sense, y'all? Y'all, if you gathered any other lessons throughout this film, or if you feel like my lesson is not the main lesson, I guess, of this film, let me know in the comments. Let's get conversations started with these films and the lessons that we discover while watching them. If you made it this far, that means you liked it. You like what I was saying. So go ahead and like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend. The next episode of There's a Lesson Here Somewhere, we're actually going to be covering a series. It's a Tubi original series, and it's called Big Mood. There are about 6 episodes, so you'll need about a good 3 hours to finish the entire series before Monday next week. Big Mood is, of course, available on Tubi for free. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening and discussing and all that jazz. I'll see you next week.